Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront updates and some very exciting news as the Age of Rebellion community transmission just arrived, and it contained a lot more than a lot of us expected, such as new reinforcements, blasters, they're finally living up to the promised new blasters for the main classes, Leia Rework, and a bunch of other stuff, all arriving in the update coming tomorrow to Battlefront 2. So this is a massive community transmission. I feel like I say that every month, but this is truly a massive one with the release notes as well. So I'm simply gonna dive straight into it and get to all the good stuff. First of all, they say on February 26th, which is tomorrow, they've got a great selection of new content coming to the game, such as 7 new co-op locations for the original trilogy, 2 new reinforcements with the Ewok Hunter and ISB Agent, 4 new blasters, 4 capital ships for co-op, hero improvements, AI upgrades, and 2 new heroes versus villains maps. So let's dive into all of the details. First off, going to the new reinforcements, and we're starting off with the Ewok Hunter, something that was data mined a while back that they noticed a new Ewok bow. So a lot of people thought maybe we could be getting them as a reinforcement, and it turns out that was correct. So the Ewok Hunter's primary weapon will be its Hunter's Bow, which has a dual firing modes. When the bow uses default zoom, which just means no zoom, it will pick out targets for you to fire at, similar to Lando's Deadeye ability. When zoomed, you'll have manual aim control for far greater control and the ability to hold your draw longer to increase maximum speed and damage. When firing the bow, the Ewok Hunter does not appear on scanners. Should the Ewok Hunter find themselves in a situation that requires more damage and resistance, the ability Valiant Horn comes into play. Blowing the horn will not only improve their attacks, but will also grant them additional damage resistance. Be warned though, while Valiant Horn is active, the Ewok Hunter will constantly appear on enemy scanners. Also at your disposal, you will have your trusty Wisty Pouch, just as in Ewok Hunt, which will disrupt and inflict damage on the enemies. And then of course Hunter's Instinct, where you will be able to uncover and single out weakened opponents. So the abilities are pretty similar to Ewok Hunt, except for of course the main bows. So for what I understand, if you fire normally, it will basically be like a lock-on where you can fire your arrows, well, directly at the enemies and you can't really miss them, I guess, but they will probably do not that much damage. But if you want to go manual, maybe a little bit like the cycler rifle, which I will get to later in this video, you'll be able to pull off like one-shots. At least I hope that if you do a manual bow shot and you charge it up fully and you hit someone maybe in the head, let's say, it should be a one-shot. Maybe even if you hit them in the body, I'm not entirely sure. We'll see how much damage it deals, but I feel like that should be the trade-off. If you use the automatic aim, you won't deal that much damage. If you use the manual aim, you should do a lot of damage. So I'm really curious to see how it's going to play out. And I can imagine we'll see some very sick plays with the Ewok Hunter's bow. So yeah, make sure to send in your clips once the update is out tomorrow. After that, we've got the ISB Agent. For the Galactic Empire, the ISB Agent will be joining the ranks, providing the Empire with their first opportunity of a dual-wielding character. Armed with 2 RK-3 blasters, the ISB Agent is skilled in intelligence gathering and close combat, working tirelessly throughout the enemies of the Empire. The ISB Agent excels at getting in and out of combat zones, especially when her assault training ability is activated. While under the effects of assault training, the ISB Agent will benefit from increased sprint speed, during which she gains an overall damage reduction. So it seems like it's not going to be like the assault training where you get health back like the normal assault class, which is a little bit confusing. But moving on, locating enemies of the Empire is made easier thanks to the Imperial Intel ability. Once activated, the ISB Agent will scan the nearby area to reveal the 4 closest enemies. The number of enemies revealed will be increased by defeating more while it's active, up to a total of 10. And lastly, Double Your Effort is her final ability and empowers nearby allies by regenerating their base health. It can only be used if there's an ally in range. Overall, 2 new reinforcements that sound really interesting, but I gotta say, that Ewok is definitely what caught my interest the most. Dual-wielding character is of course very nice, but in terms of the ISB Agent's abilities, it doesn't seem to be something that will blow your mind. Probably, I could be wrong, but the Ewok Hunter reinforcement, that sounds like it's gonna be... It could be really hard to use. Maybe not the strongest, but I'm so excited to try to pull off some sick bow shots with the Ewok, that's for sure. But if you move on to co-op, there's going to be 7 new locations that you can play co-op on, which is Yavin, Death Star 2, Endor, Hoth, Tatooine, Kessel, and Jabba's Palace. So you've got a pretty big range of co-op maps for the original trilogy, which means that your total co-op map count is actually, I don't know the number, but pretty high if you play across all 3 eras. And as for capital ship co-op, you've also got 2 new co-op maps here. There's 4 capital ships in total, as you know, but they will be starting off with Republic Venator and Separatist Dreadnought, on which you will now be able to play co-op. And then we move on to something I know we have been waiting for a very long time now, almost 3 years, not really 3 years, but they announced prior to the release of Battlefront 2 that we would be getting new weapons. We have gotten new weapons on new heroes and reinforcements, but we have not gotten any new weapons for the classes. And we are finally getting that, as we are getting 1 new blaster for each of the 4 classes that you will be able to equip and modify, and they will also be cross-era compatible. So starting off with the assault class, we are getting the E11D, a medium-range blast rifle that was manufactured for precision and reliability, and it's available with these 3 mods: reduced recoil, which means light stock allowing sustained fire with less recoil, flashlight, which will reveal enemies while zooming, and single fire mode, where I'm assuming you can tap fire and maybe it will increase the damage, I'm not entirely sure. And for the officer class, we've got the DL18 pistol making a return from Battlefront 1. It has a very fast fire rate, but is slightly less powerful than a lot of its counterparts, so it's very good if you like spamming basically. And it's available with these 3 mods: improved cooling, reduced spread, and repeating mode. First 2 very self-explanatory, and the repeating mode basically means that you can have continuous fire by keeping the trigger pulled, so you don't need to spam click as fast as you can to fire if you have the repeating mode on. And another weapon making a return, this time for the heavy class, is the T21. A very slow rate of fire but powerful blaster that in the previous game, if you didn't know, was able to 2-shot people if you hit them. Well, it depended on which traits you had on and so on, but it was a very slow rate of fire, high damage output blaster. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same here. It was also pretty short range. There was a T21B version that had a longer range, but this is the short version that was very powerful. And the 3 mods available are improved zoom, improved handling, and burst mode. The improved handling means less recoil but less damage, and the burst mode means you can fire a 3 blast burst with each pull of the trigger. And lastly, for the specialist, we've got my probably favorite weapon from Battlefront 1, the Cycler rifle, making a return to the game. And it do call it a blaster here, so I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be firing solid slugs like it did in the previous game, where it also went through shields, but that system is not really in place in this game, so I think the Cycler rifle will probably work more like a blaster, but I hope it's still going to be a slug, something that has a little bit of a drop-off that works but basically like a real bullet and not like a blaster bolt that goes straight. But I'm not entirely sure. It sounds like it's going to be a blaster here, so probably not like in Battlefront 1. And the 3 mods available are dual zoom, reduced recoil, and improved cooling. So very exciting that we're getting some new blasters finally to the game, as well as some new reinforcements, and it sounds like tomorrow is gonna be a really good update. And then we move on to hero improvements, and most importantly the tweaks to Leia. And first of all, her E11 blaster ability, where they've increased the start damage, the damage fall off, the recoil, and the blaster fire, making it more deadly. Because right now I almost feel like I prefer her main pistol over the E11 blaster, but with this update it seems like the E11 blaster is gonna pack a proper punch. And they're also changing her shield by adding a heal to it, so any friendlies inside the shield will be healed with 5 health per second, so that definitely gives it a lot more use. And also lastly, changes to her flash grenade, which is being replaced by thermal detonators. Leia will have the ability to throw 3 thermal detonators which explode after 0.85 seconds. This ability will then enter cooldown once all 3 detonators have been thrown. So I'm not entirely sure if that means that you can throw 1 at a time and they then kind of recharge 1 at a time like some other abilities do with charges, or if it's more like, okay, you gotta throw them and then it will go on cooldown even if you only throw 2 of them, or I'm not entirely sure. But nevertheless, overall, thank you for getting rid of that useless flash grenade. Thermal detonators are gonna be so much more handy, and I think with the increased E11 blaster, with the heal on the shield and the thermal detonators, she's gonna be a lot more deadly than she currently is. And they're also changing 2 of her star cards that were affecting the flashbang to now instead increase the blast radius of the thermal detonators and reduce the cooldown of the thermal detonators. And also there's some changes to Chewbacca's bowcaster to make him more effective against troopers. So when he's scoped, you will fire one powerful shot that allows Chewbacca to be more efficient at long distance, and when you're non-scoped, you will fire 3 bolts that are grouped in a triangle formation instead of the previous like kind of like a line formation. And while you're using Furious Bowcaster, when you're scoped, you'll fire 5 bolts in a cross tighter than not scoped, and when you're not scoped, you'll fire 5 bolts in a larger circle. So it seems like he will be a lot more effective at taking out the troopers now, and this is kind of similar to some of the changes they did to the bowcaster in the previous game actually. So I think he's going to be definitely more effective in infantry heavy modes now. And as for the AI in the game, they're adding vehicle AI in this patch, as well as the fact that they can play friendly heroes on your side, and also AI squads within instant action, allowing you to squad up with the AI. So a lot of improvements there for the AI, and the biggest one definitely being the vehicles, as it does feel a little bit empty when you play instant action or something like that with no enemy or friendly vehicles available. As for heroes versus villains, there's 2 new maps, which is the MC-85 Star Cruiser and the Resurgence class Star Destroyer, both arriving as playable maps. And they've also done some layout changes to both Geonosis and Yavin 4 for this mode that they're keen to hear feedback on. So I'm not sure exactly how much those layout changes are going to be, but Yavin 4 and Geonosis were definitely low down on my heroes versus villains tier list, I would say. So hopefully they've done some good changes to it. And then moving on, we got some reinforcement and trooper updates coming to the game, where the Wookiee Warrior, Imperial Rocket Trooper and Rocket Trooper will all be receiving some updated appearances. And these 3 will all become the default look for each of them, but the previous appearance will also be available for you to choose if you want to. And some of these troopers are also getting updated weapons, with the Death Trooper getting the E11D Blaster, the Rocket Trooper getting the E11 for improved combat efficiency, and the Jump Trooper getting an A280C for automatic fire. They've also tweaked the dual wielding functionality, which will improve both the ARC Trooper and ISB Agent. Both reinforcements will now play more consistently when firing the pistols. They will now be automatic and moved onto a single button, while the Power Blast will become an alternate fire ability. And lastly, the Flame Trooper will be getting a improved Incendiary Imploder, and the Wookiee Warrior will actually be receiving a Chewbacca-style Ground Pound ability. So that sounds like the Wookiee Warrior is going to be quite strong now. And, well, Chewbacca in the lead with his updated bowcaster as well. And lastly, we've got a ton of UI settings added to the game, as you can see on the screen right now. All of these, which you can now personally choose if you want them on, no outline, off, or so on, giving you a lot more choice of how your UI is going to look, something that I think this game has been missing. So if you want to play with everything off, you can, everything on, you can do so as well. And they've also added character levels and other various visual improvements to the scoreboard, which is really good to hear. So that is a lot of things coming to the game tomorrow, and I've also got the release notes down here that I will be going over here in a second. Most of it I've actually gone through because they went through all the changes here in the text, but I'm gonna go through some of the stuff in the release notes that was not in the previous text. Also, you might have noticed that there doesn't seem like Supremacy is coming this month to original Trilogy, but I think that it might be because they're saving Supremacy for when they're dropping Scarif in March. I would have loved to get Supremacy tomorrow, but well, there's still a lot of content coming tomorrow. It's just a shame that in order to play all the new stuff, we're gonna have to play Galactic Assault, or well, obviously co-op or instant action as well. But I would have loved to try out the new reinforcements right away in Supremacy, but it seems like that's not the case, unless I've missed something, at which point I'll probably add something on the screen or, you know, comment below. But nothing in the community transmission at all mentions Supremacy, so I think that's coming in March, and I haven't seen any comment from Ben as of making this video either. As for the release notes, let me go through some of the important stuff that was not previously mentioned, such as some of the hero changes, and a duel soon being added to Item Versio Bosk's and Finn's Blaster, and some more visual information on how some hero abilities can be cancelled. And you can no longer interrupt hero abilities with melee attacks as well, which was quite frustrating. Also, a couple of bug fixes to BB-8 and BB-9E, as well as some increased support ability score for both of the BB units, which I think is good, as the scoring for those were a bit low in my opinion. A couple of bug fixes for Boba, Rey, Anakin and Luke, and for Iden they have improved her pulse cannon ability. You can now fire while aiming from the hip, as well as fire at any time during the charge up. Even if the shot does not need to be fully charged, a charged shot does a lot more damage, which I think is pretty fair. And some community feedback for Kylo Ren. His last frenzy hit will now deal damage even if a lightsaber enemy is blocking, which I think is fair. If you use your ability on someone blocking, at least one of the hits should deal damage. Some bug fixes as always for supremacy and co-op and instant action, but they've also added some good new options for instant action where you can choose the enemy and friendly hero count, enemy and friendly reinforcement count, and enemy and friendly vehicle count. So you can definitely have a lot more customization now if you just want to play with, I don't know, a shit ton of heroes. I'm sure there's going to be like a cap on how many you can have for performance reasons, but if you want to play with, well, pretty much only heroes, I think that might be possible. Basically make your own heroes versus villains. The officer's Blurg pistol has also had a slight increase of damage on close range. For the Jet Trooper, they reduced the damage from the primary pistol, but instead made it fully automatic. But that should be most of the stuff in the release notes. Obviously, I did not go over all of it, but most of it was stuff that was talked about in the community transmission. And of course, there are probably at least 100, almost, bugs here that's been fixed. So, as always, if you're looking to see if your favorite or not favorite bug has been fixed, check out the link in the description below to read through the full patch notes. Overall, fantastic update. I'm very excited to give it a go. Probably Cycler Rifle and Ewok Bow being the main things that I want to try out tomorrow. But other than that, make sure to drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it and leave a comment below letting me know what you think about tomorrow's update. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.